Welcome back. This is the third video clip in our little series on configuring Linux Air Combat for use with USB console game controllers like this example, this being the Logitech Dual Action game controller. We've been talking about the principles involved in configuring any kind of game controller or joystick for Linux Air Combat, and if you've been following along, by now you're almost done, and probably a lot of things are working correctly for you. You will find, however, that it's necessary to do some cleanup at this point. Once you've got all of the obvious buttons mapped, then we need to deal with some less than obvious things. I'm going to fire up a file browser, and from my home folder I'm going to enter the hidden.lac folder that Linux Air Combat installs when you first start using it. And we're going to take a look at the lac controls.txt file. This is the same file we've been looking at throughout the other clips here in the series. And as before, I'm going to scroll down into the joystick section. And this is what it should look like when you're all done. Notice that I've carefully looked it over and made sure there are no duplicates. So this is the only A2, well, okay, the axes do have duplicates, but for buttons, there's no other button A2, there's no other button A1, there's no other button A3, there's just one of each. And in general, you're going to want to map each Linux Air Combat function with just one button. And you'll notice that the buttons that I'm not using, I carefully changed them all to A999. You can choose any number that's higher than the number that's offered by your hardware, but I think 999 is a pretty safe and obvious choice. So by taking all of the ones that you don't care about, all the functions you're never going to use, and mapping them to A999, and mapping the ones that you are going to use to the buttons that really make sense with your controller, as we've talked about elsewhere, you're going to be okay. So that's what you do. It's really unusual to map one function to two buttons. You can do that so that one button will do two functions, but I've never found a use for that. So that's the cleanup you need to do. Once you've got it so there are no duplicated buttons and all of the unused buttons have a high number like A999, then you'll find everything's well behaved and you're now done. Thank you. That is all.